We've all heard these words before. Common sense isn't common anymore. How that hits me is there is a need for common sense to be common knowledge once more. Why is that? Kindness, thoughtfulness, respect, mutual courtesy. I don't know if this ever happened to any of you before, but walking up to a building, you're almost there, and there's someone in front of you. Just let the door go. How does that feel? What are some of the things that you think about when that happens? Right? It can mean the difference between life and death. We don't think about some of these things in that sense. You start this motion of I'm angry now. It continues, I have a file for something I have to do. I didn't approve the loan, so this person could be without a home or health insurance, or I'm distracted because a whole bunch of different things have happened. Some aspect of this is cultural. So I remember a time when, someone sneezes. I'm not used to hearing the word thank you after I hear Gesundheit or God bless you, right? So how can we make common sense common knowledge again? I believe CSR, corporate social responsibility, and sustainability has an opportunity to help us to learn how to make common sense common again. And CSR has been around since the 1800s. It also has gotten momentum since the 70s and 80s because of consumerism, right? We want companies to be responsible, socially responsible for the things that they're doing, right? And so there are 4 pillars typically for CSR: economic, legal, ethical, philanthropy. And philanthropy has been around for the longest. I don't know if any of you are familiar with this story. I remember it every time I think about philanthropy and just corporate social responsibility and sustainability. And it's this film, it's coming about to be that time, the holidays, Miracle on 34th Street. Some of you here, I'm sure, are familiar with that story. And part of the storyline is where the gentleman who's playing Saint Nick was aware of what was in terms of merchandising, where you could go and find other things, so he made that recommendation, right? And all of a sudden, the other company was wanting to catch up on that. It's like, oh, we're missing out, right? By doing the right thing. So we don't think about it, it doesn't live in silos of itself. So culturally, I know we have very different backgrounds. Everyone has little things. I remember growing up in Jamaica. There are many sayings. Some of them are so hysterical, I don't understand what they mean or why they say them. But I'm going to say one, and it's very simple, and I think this is also how you help to solve. So within your own space of culture and or your environment, you'll have your own. You have to learn to dance a yard before you dance abroad. For those Jamaicans in the audience, do not laugh at me because I didn't say it so cool. And all it means is you have an opportunity to do what you have to practice at home before you go outside, right? Learn it. Nothing new, right? We often hear that from our parents, grandparents, or teachers, so on. Again, when you talk about CSR in these sense, CSR touches many aspects. You can think about hundreds of themes that it hits, because it's talking about us in our environment and the social impact, right? So whether we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're talking about entitlement, we're talking about pluralism, we're talking about health, we're talking about AI, it touches every single aspect of our lives. So we have an opportunity to use that to be able to leverage and learn. I don't know if you have ever driven, you're on a main street or main road, and you're on the side where the traffic light isn't working, right? What happens? Usually the traffic flows just one way, and it's a lot of chaos around it when you try to make a right or a left, right? Tons of accident may happen, so on and so forth. But you know, and all of us, if we're drivers, we would have done a test that says the rule is it's a 4-point stop. Try making that happen, right? And we see the same thing even at 4-point stops. Common sense. How can we build common sense into our day-to-day lives? How can we make a difference? For that to work, whatever information gets sent, you will have a police officer or several police officers, depending on where they are, to bring black flow. So when we look to companies, we spend a significant number of hours there, and probably also in our volunteer roles, right? Remember I said you have to learn to dance at yard before you dance abroad. So you spend a lot of time there, so you have an opportunity for learning. And so this allows your HR management team, your leadership team, to build in things that will help you to be effective, to teach us the golden rules, right? We all know the do unto others you want them do unto you. Do things for the greater good, right? Utilitarianism. All of those are things that are part of our daily lives. It's part of CSR, corporate social responsibility and sustainability, right? I lectured for a little bit, and this was one of my programs that I taught. And so at the very beginning of my class, one of the things that I do is I allow my students to tell me what are their goals, not just for the class, but for their semester, or maybe for the rest of the school year, depending on when I'm lecturing. And I share my expectations with them. We have about 21, I'm going to give or take without exam, 21 classes. We meet twice a week for about an hour, 15 minutes, give or take. So you're looking at about 10 weeks of learning. At the end of my program, I do the same thing again. And I'm intentional about what I'm looking to do. I also let them know at the very top, I'm not a traditional teacher or lecturer, right? Managing expectations. I ask them pretty much the same questions. Did you accomplish the goal, or did you set more? What was some of your takeaway from the class? Or what could you do differently? There's always a common theme, and one is I look at information differently. I have a different understanding and learning of what to expect, right? I'm a little bit more prepared for certain things. It's not something that they're necessarily comfortable with, because one of the things I have in my class is you have to stand and present. Every class, as a team, I manage an expectation. Most of us are not, speaking comes easily to us. It's not that we're not good at what we do, but we're not necessarily that person to be front and center. So you have an opportunity to be leaders in terms of making common sense common again. Common knowledge. It starts with you. You have to manage those expectations, bring in learning, take the lead, make the difference. Common sense can be common knowledge, and you have a role and an impact to play. Make that difference today.